So hey everybody, it's Steven. So yeah, I just finished up a series of videos on my thoughts um, about John the Baptist and how he plays sort of a counterpart to Mary as epitome of created Sophia, and how I liken him to Sagittarius, the hunter in the stars, and aiming his arrow to the sky and effectively bringing down the Holy Spirit into Christ. So a very celestial theme, and I think it's interesting. It's a very poetic, right? It's a nicely poetic way of thinking of Paul as out in the wilderness, in the skies, hunting for God, and his mission becoming the bringing down of the Holy Spirit into Christ. I mean, to realize that he doesn't do that; he just participates in it. But it's his thing. Baptism is his thing. So I like that, and I think the poeticness of it matches. He's a wanderer. He's think of him as a celestial wanderer, as an epitome of human Sophia, reaching for divine Sophia, trying to bring it down with an arrow. And I guess much to his surprise, he does. Right? He actually does. And then God goes off in imitation of him. What better way of knowing that John was on to something to have Christ immediately imitate. And there's nothing better for a teacher than for your student to exceed you, and Christ exceeds John's foray into the wilderness to find God by foraying into the wilderness to defeat Satan. So, right. So that's nice. The one thing that's interesting here, though, that is that Sagittarius can not only be an archer, it can be a teapot, right? There's this idea of a Sagittarius as a teapot. Now, I don't know if the archer is a more Western, maybe a Greek idea, and the teapot is more of an Eastern Mesopotamian idea, but that would make sense. And the way that the two civilizations oriented themselves, how they thought, Greek philosophical thought versus Mesopotamian embodied thought. So the teapot containing wisdom. So the Sophia, the lamps, right? Lamps used to be little pots with wicks coming out the end, and we thought of that as the light of truth shining on the text, bringing us the intent of the text. So the teapot, the lamp, I suppose. And then for me, from the physics side, because I've wandered away from the physics, but I'm going to come back here. The teapot of Sagittarius is pouring directly into the galactic center, right? So if you map in the sky, where is the supermassive black hole at the center of the galaxy? It's in Sagittarius. I think it's called Sagittarius A. So, and if you imagine the teapot spilling out, it spills directly into the black hole, the galactic center. And if you've been following me, you'll remember, I don't know how many videos back, maybe 20, where I was positing that that God the Trinity is in this hypostatic state that it's that the outcome of which state it is depends on the situation. So this is just as in quantum mechanics. The situation will determine the outcome. Our situation in our created world determines the outcome in the quantum world that is a non-time driven world. So that's interesting. We are derived from the quantum world, and our world proceeds along in a way that the quantum world doesn't. And how does the quantum world break down? How does it decohere? Which is how I was putting it. How does it decohere? How does the wave function collapse? If you're a wave function collapse person, how does it collapse into our world? And I would say it's by what's needed. It's interpretation of what's needed. So anyway, we're also talking ways back. I don't know, 15 videos. Who knows? About how the event horizon of a black hole is sort of the quantum edge of choice, and particles that appear out of the quantum background energy. Half of if they appear right at the this edge at this event horizon of the black hole, then half of the particle enters our universe. The other half goes into the nothingness of the singularity of the quantum. So half the particle goes to the uncreated God, and half the particle comes into the created universe. And so we have a bit of the uncreated floating around with a timeline, because that single particle is not then collapsing or reforming with that antiparticle that fell into the uncreated and turned back into energy of the background, but it is now free because of this peculiarity of the quantum of the event horizon, the edge, the event horizon. And so that's Hawking radiation. So this is nothing. What I'm talking about is not like a little idea that I dreamed up. The Hawking radiation is what this is, and so we have a timeline-driven universe because of this phenomenon. And the largest event horizon around us is the black hole in the galactic center at the end of the teapot of Sagittarius, which is, we now know, is John the Baptist aiming to bring God down into the world, in the case of the Holy Spirit into Christ in the Jordan River. So what is the Holy Spirit? The Holy Spirit is the particle at the edge of the event horizon whose antiparticle went back into the hypostasis of the Trinity, and the thing that comes out is the escaped person of the Trinity, right? Now it's not a hypostasis. The event has happened. The event was needed, and the needed thing was the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit pops out through this event horizon quantum mechanism and descends into our world, and of course now into each of us that's baptized. So yeah, that's nice. Like, that's really nice. It's nice physics, and it's nice poetry. It's nice theology. So that seems good. So he's hunting, but he's also a container. And then if we're thinking containers, we think of Mary as a container, the container of the church. The embodiment of the church. Mary becomes the church, the container. And so then if you go back a number of videos, I'm sorry about this, but it's got a bunch of videos to do this, and you go back to my musings on the ark and the ark of the Judaism, and how there's two seraphim on top, and between the seraphim arises God or arises wisdom. I don't know that it's really clear. It'd be a lot of fun to explore this with someone that knows a lot about this, Jacob. Yeah, so it's Shekinah, I think it's called in Judaism. The wisdom that arises between the seraphim that are on the Ark of the Covenant that contains the law of Moses and Jesse's rod and manna from heaven are in there. So we have this idea that between these two seraphim, and I was positing, in my musings that the two seraphim represent the particle and the antiparticle, right, that are forming at the event horizon. And the event horizon is between the two seraphim. And what is the event horizon? It is the unknowable God. So I won't say Trinity in this case because we're going back to Judaism, and I want to respect that. And but you still have this idea of an unknowability of the quantum, right? We don't know how the quantum decision is going to be made, but it will result in a particle or an antiparticle. It will result in some sort of choice. And so if the seraphim on the ark of God, who is the container of choice, of all choices, the quantum container of choice, then the seraphim are representing the possible outcomes and the envisioning of God or of ultimate wisdom, Shekinah, is occurring between the seraphim. So that's a nice parallel to our John Sagittarius. And if we take that into a Christian theme, then we can and we think of that ultimate wisdom. And in Judaism, it's seen as feminine, right? So that's one reason to think that it's not God that you're summoning. It's a spirit. It's a spirit of wisdom. It's a feminine spirit of wisdom, the Shekinah. If I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, so excuse me for that. But so that wisdom occurring between the two possible outcomes, and the wisdom is that it's a false choice, right? That the reality is somewhere in between. So if we take that wisdom and we take it to Christianity, well, we have two fonts of wisdom and John and Mary. And John we've already got a story for, so let's put Mary there. And Mary is thought of as the container, and there's the ark. So the ark is the container, and then I think we think of Mary as the ark. So here we are. So we substitute the feminine wisdom spirit of Judaism for Mary on the ark, which becomes the church. Existing between the yes and the no, between the particle and antiparticle, between the choices. And and so she effectively embodies the church built on the bones of Moses, right? So that sounds right. It sounds like we're getting at some big thing, but also existing in the quantum hypostasis of decision. So we have that, and then that's nice. That's a nice, really nice poetic, and it really, that idea that in our church, in our parish, behind the ark, behind the altar, right, is Jesus with Mary on his right hand and John on the left. So the two highest epitomes of earthly wisdom are Mary at his right side, the ark of the church, understanding that God is a hypostasis, and that our fallenness is a state of false choice. And John on the left side, having come to the same conclusion, both by these encounters with the event horizon and with the hypostasis choices that are the quantum world. And then the last piece I would just tack on, as long as we're building metaphors here, is that in the garden the apple contains a seed, right? So the tree of the knowledge of good and evil offers a fruit, but the fruit is not the tree. The fruit is not the knowledge. And if we eat the fruit, we will not have the knowledge of that tree. We will have some subset of knowledge. We'll have some fleshy, fruity sort of knowledge, a sort of fallen, fleshly knowledge, perhaps. If we decide to eat the fruit, because the fruit does contain the tree. The tree is in the seed, the mustard seed of faith. Right? Christianity is a faith religion, so. In the Christian story, the Garden of Eden is a faith thing. So the faith is the mustard seed inside of the fruit. And will you have faith to not do the thing you're not supposed to do, or will you eat the fruit, live in the flesh of the fruit, and pass the seed? Right? We don't digest the seeds. We can't digest the wisdom of God. And the fruit is the part of the wisdom of God that we get if we disobey, and the consequence is living in partial wisdom. And so the fall is a living in the partial wisdom of the flesh of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And had we not eaten the fruit, right, we still would not contain the knowledge. So there's this idea that if we hadn't eaten the fruit, we would be led to the tree of life and we would live forever. But I think it's a more delicious thing than that. I think it's that that to get the seed of true faith, you have to eat the fruit, but you can't digest that seed as though it were knowledge. It's faith. So you have to eat the fruit of the tree and become the fleshy part of the knowledge, not the full knowledge, but also have faith that you have also consumed the seed of true knowledge that you can't really know, but you will have faith. You will have faith that it is there within the fleshy fruit of the world that you had to live in order to ingest the tree. And I guess I better stop there. See ya.